Hello everyone and welcome to My Fantasy Journey, a channel dedicated to opinion-based fantasy book reviews. So today I'm going to be talking about a book whose movie is very known apparently. A lot of times when I've mentioned this title to a lot of people, they know about the movie, not about the book. And like it often happens, sadly, most of the time they don't know that there's a book behind the movie, that the movie was based on a book, sadly. A lot of people, a lot of times they don't know that, a lot of people, they don't know that at all. But yeah, apparently it is a very good film. I have not watched it myself. I'm not a movie person. I don't watch movies at all, especially when they're related to a book. I just rather go to the book itself. But from what I've heard, it's very popular and it's loved by a lot of people, actually. And, yeah, a lot of people have told me, oh yeah, I've heard of that and I absolutely love the movie. But they don't know about the book. But anyways, the book itself also, I believe, is like a classic in the fantasy genre. The author, for sure, definitely is like consider a classic in the fantasy genre. And I think, this is probably her most, popular book. So definitely, if you're into fantasy, you probably definitely at least heard of it, this book. If you haven't like read it yet, you've definitely have heard of it. It's a really fun, very original, very witty, very, very cool book. And that is Howl's Moving Castle by Deanna Wynne Jones. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But yeah, Howl's Moving Castle. So like I said, this is kind of like, if I'm not mistaken, it is a classic. I'm pretty sure, like I said, if you haven't read it, you've definitely heard of it if you're into fantasy. And I know that this book is also loved by a lot of people. And that it's, yeah, and from like the reviews that I've read online and everything, like I've barely read anything that's negative about this book. I think like most of the people who read it love it. And yeah, and like I said, the author is definitely a classic. I think this is probably her most popular book. She has like a ton of other books, and of course she also has like the Crestomancy series, which is also very popular. There were like the pre-Harry Potter kind of thing. A lot of people say that J.K. Rowling got inspired by those books to create Harry Potter. I don't know if that's true, but that's definitely another series, like other books from her that are very popular also. But I think this is probably her most known and most popular and most beloved book. But she has a lot of them also, so yeah. But anyways, let's start by saying a little bit of what this book is about. So this book is about pretty much this girl named Sophie, who is the eldest of three daughters in a family, of course. And she's kind of like sadly destined to kind of like fail at whatever she proposes, like in her life if she leaves her home. So that's kind of sad, but yeah, she's that's like a kind of like a curse that like the third eldest daughter has, or something like that. But anyway, she's bound to fail if she leaves home. But then one day she encounters this witch who turns her into an old lady, which is very tragic. So yeah, a witch turns her into an old lady, and she has to seek the help of this horrifying, scary, heartless wizard named Howl, who owns this castle that walks around the hills of the village, like scaring people. And yeah, she has to seek him and like seek his help in order to become herself again. And on that journey, she discovers a lot of things about Howl, and she discovers a lot of things about herself. So that's kind of like a little bit what this book is about. Like I said, I'm not gonna spoil anything or talk too much about it, because I just want to talk about, my experience with the book and my thoughts. So yeah, let's start with the things that I liked about this book, which were a lot actually. This book surprised me. I personally love castles, so the title of this book itself called my attention a lot, like Howl's moving castle. I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? A castle, you know, like a moving castle? What? That's so cool. So that's one of the things that I like about this book, how original it is. Like, it's so original. Like, I've never heard, I'm sorry, I've never read anything like this book before. It's so different. It's not your typical fantasy. It's not your, you know, like your conventional fantasy that you know, that you kind of like know what's gonna happen, or, you know, of course it is still a fantasy, so it has like, of course, like the fantasy elements, but it's so different. It's so original, and that's one of the things that I love the most about this book. How unconventional, how distinct it is, because I've never read anything like Howl's Moving Castle. It's so witty. That's also my other point that I was going to say. Is another thing that I love about this book is that it's so witty and just so fun and so lighthearted. And it's just like so humorous also. Of course, there are like, you know, parts when things happen, obviously, that are more serious and everything, but this book itself has a very light tone to it. It's very fun, very humorous, and very witty, and just such a delight to read. You know, it's one of those books that kind of like comforts you. Like, if you know, if you're tired of reading like maybe like more serious books and you're looking for something that's more like fun and more, you know, like light, that's something that I love about this book. It was very like very fun, a very fun book. Something else that I appreciate also is the way it's written. It's very straightforward. It's very easy to read, super quick. It's not really like a super thick book. It has how many pages? This is like an interview that it has. Well, it has like 400 and something pages. I don't know if you consider that long or short. It depends on the person. But you can read this really quickly because it's so easy to read. She wrote it in a way that was very, very accessible, you know, and very easy to digest and very easy to absorb, but without losing the essence, without losing the humor, or without using like that magic that this book has. So that is something that's really cool. She did really well with that. It's a book that keeps you interested, and of course it's not like super sophisticated or anything, but I feel like it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need that. It's perfect the way it's written. It's very fun and just very easy to get into. So, you know, that's like also a good thing about it, that if you're looking for like a more quick read, also like something that you can read pretty fast and still be super entertained, and like taken by the story, and just like, you know, oh, I want to continue reading it, stuck to it. That's something that I also like about this book. And something else that I like, it's the characters are very fun also. I'm not going to talk too much about that, because obviously then I'll spoil some things if you haven't read this book. But the characters are so much fun. So much fun. That's one of the things that like that gives this book life. Like, the characters are just so fun. Like, you can kind of like feel so related to them sometimes. And, you know, I just love the essence of the characters, you know, and like I said, this is a very original story, and the characters also are very original and very fun to follow, and yeah, and see how the things that happen to them, and see how they react to those things and everything, and it's super fun. The characters is something that also is very important in this book for me, that were very fun. And yeah, and the other thing that I really liked about this book was the feel, like the atmosphere. Like I said, it's it's pretty whimsical. It is. It's very like whimsical and very like it's magical, but not in your traditional fantasy way. It's more magical in the like I don't know I don't know how to explain it, but in a more whimsical way, I would say. Yes. Yeah, and like that the atmosphere is also like that. It's also like a very just very not your typical fantasy, but still very magical. But a very fun atmosphere and a very different one. Like I've said a million times now, from your typical fantasy. So that's something that I appreciate also. It described things well also, and so you can imagine everything pretty well in this book, which is something really important for me. I like descriptive books, or at least books that can capture the essence of like the settings pretty well, and this book does that. So it's also very picturesque, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, those are like the things that I liked. So now let's say the things that I didn't like. The things, one of the things that I didn't like was sometimes I would have, I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to spoil, but I would have preferred if some settings in the book would have been a little bit more, there would have been more to it, you know? I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's not that I felt stuck in this book at all. I mean, it is a moving castle after all. But some parts I just feel I wanted to explore a little bit more. It does come in parts of the book. I'm not saying, like I said, it's not that they feel stuck, but there's some parts in the book, some settings that I would have preferred to like, that when I was gonna read this book, I thought it was gonna be different, and then when I read it, I was like, that's kind of disappointing in a way. It didn't ruin the book for me, but I was like, I wish this would have been a little bit more vast, not vast, but a little bit more big, like to give like more space. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I just wish that some settings in the book would have been a little bit more developed. I think that's the best way to put it. Another thing that I didn't like, and this really got me off, like it kind of pissed me off a little bit, but I think this is just a personal thing because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people wouldn't care about this at all. But I don't know how to say this without spoiling anything. But there's a part when they travel somewhere. Let's put it like that. They travel somewhere, and it's a place that I kind of don't want them to go to because this is a fantasy book. I want to escape. If you have read this book, tell me in the comment section if you see this, if you know what I'm talking about. But there's a part in the book where they go somewhere that I just don't want to be, because it's like, this is a fantasy book. This is a way for me to escape from that place that they went to. And, you know, and it was like, oh, everything was fine, you know, like magical places and everything, and they throw you there all of a sudden. And it's like, oh no, I don't want to be here because I'm already there in a way, but I'm not. But this is a fantasy book, so I don't want to have to read about that place that I already know because I live in it. I know this makes no sense if you haven't read the book. If you have read the book, maybe you know what I'm talking about, but that's the closest thing that I could say without spoiling the book. I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, that's another thing that I didn't really like. You know, what happened in the book. There's a time in the book when they visit a place that I would have preferred if it wasn't included, because... But that's just, I think that's more of a personal thing about me, you know, being crazy. So I don't think that would be like too much of a drawback for a lot of people. So that was like the only two things that I didn't really like about this book. Other than that, super, super fun book. Who would I recommend this to? I think I would recommend this book to anyone, because this is the type of book that I recommend to people. For example, if someone asks me, or if someone, you know, asks or whatever, oh, I need book recommendations, like, you know, recommend a book to me. One of the books that I always almost say is Howl's Moving Castle, because I feel like it's just so approachable and so different. You know, it's not like a fairy tale that maybe some people are not really into. You know, it's a fantasy that I feel like a lot of people would enjoy because it is, like I have said a million times, very fun and very easy to digest and very quick to read. And I think it's perfect for that. If you want like a quick, fun read, I would recommend this to you. And if you're looking for a very original, very different, unconventional fantasy with a lot of wit and humor, I would recommend this to you. And if you're just looking for an enjoyable read, like in general, I would also recommend this. It's really fun. It's a very, very nice read. If you're more into like serious, like epic fantasies with a lot of action and stuff like that, then maybe this is not the book for you. You know, if you're more into that type of fantasy. But like I said, it's still a very fun book. And like I said, yeah, who would I not recommend this to? To be honest, I don't know. If you're not into fantasy, if you're not into whimsical stuff, if you're not like into like light-hearted books and like kind of humorous and witty, and if you're more into like serious, more action-driven, complex fantasies, that maybe you won't enjoy this book as much. But it is overall very enjoyable, and I think a lot of people would enjoy this book, so I recommend this pretty much to anyone. So yeah, Howl's Moving Castle. So I give this book a 4.5 out of 5. The only drawback, like I said, was those two things that I didn't like. That was like the only thing that I found wrong with it. Other than that, it was super fun. So yeah, it was a great read, and definitely, like I said, something that I would recommend to a lot of people. And just in case you guys didn't know, this book is also a series. There's 3 parts which are like right here at my bookshelf. That's where the Howl's Moving Castle went. There's 2 parts to this book. There's Castle in the Air, which I already read. I'll be doing a review for that in the future. And there's House of Many Ways. So they're not necessarily sequels. They're more like companion novels, companion books to Howl's Moving Castle. Like I said, already read the second one, and I don't think it's necessary for you to read Howl's Moving Castle, but it is preferable, because of course there is mentionings, you know, and like characters from this first book, so maybe you would say like, who the heck are these people, you know, and it's because you haven't read Howl's Moving Castle, and you don't really know the characters. But yeah, but there are three books to the series, but they're more like companion instead of like sequels and prequels and whatever. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up my review. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this book, if you agree with me, if you disagree, if you know what the heck I was talking about when I said that thing about one of the things that I didn't like, or the 2 things that I didn't like. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about there. And do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What do you like about this book? What did you dislike? Is it one of your favorite fantasy books? Do you consider it a classic? Do you consider Diana Wynne Jones a classic? Have you read the other parts of the series? Have you read the Crestomancy books by Diana Wynne Jones? Let me know. I read the 2 first books. I might be doing a review of that also. Well, I probably am. But yeah, you guys let me know. Let's discuss Howl's Moving Castle and how fun this book is in the comment section. So thank you guys so much for watching. I invite you to embark on this fantasy journey with me, so you can see more fun reviews about magical books. And yeah, thank you so much. Read on, and I'll see you on my next book review. Bye!